Today, we're going to talk about finding spirituality, finding God, finding source in the algorithm. We're in a technological age, and AI and many variations of algorithms, social media algorithms, our YouTube algorithms, internet algorithms influence us. The question Mitra and I have asked ourselves is, how can we use all of this to support our spiritual growth and our spiritual evolution? And that's what we're going to get into today. First, Mitra, let's clarify, what do we mean by algorithm and this whole idea of finding higher intelligence or God in the algorithm?
I think when people hear algorithm, something mechanical and machine-based comes to awareness, whereas algorithm, actually the word algorithm uh, came from the Persian name of Al-Kharazmi, who was the first person who created algorithm, if you like. And then, of course, it got Latinized. It became Al-Kharazmi and then algorithm. It's all based on his name, Al-Kharazmi, which we call Kharazmi. So Kharazmi, basically what happened was this was the first person who talked about solution finding in a step-by-step clarity, talked about algebra, created numerics, both Hindu and Arabic, algebra. And what really it is, if you think about what algorithm is clarification of what it is that we're seeking, and then step by step transformation from input to output. That's what
Mm,
algorithm is. It's a
hmm
very simple way of understanding. I clarify what I want and what I'm looking for, and then find step by step to get from the input, which was my question, to output, which is my answer.
mm-hmm.
Huh? So that's algorithm. It's not a mechanical thing. Actually, it was quite based on human who had a lot of curiosity and a lot of thirst for knowing. It is a very soulful process, that it's the seeking process of a very documented human being. It's not the machine. And hence, when we understand that, then our relationship to this process of algorithmic process becomes different. At least it became for me. So,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel that. It took me a while to really understand that there is something in the algorithm beyond what is coded in. So part of the algorithm, part of what an algorithm is a set of instructions. So the input goes in, and there is a set of instructions. In this case, a computer, for example, has a set of instructions that it uses to create an output with the input. What we've found and what science has shown, a lot of the outputs, or some of the outputs, or things that influence the outputs, isn't all coming from the code. That there's something beyond the code that is influencing the output, which I thought was so interesting. And particularly, I'm referring to the work of Michael Levin, who we've talked about previously on this podcast. And he did this research paper, which we'll drop a link in the show notes. But he did a research paper on algorithms, a very simple algorithm, and he was able to show and demonstrate that there are forces that influence the algorithm that cannot be explained by the code. And that there seems to be some sort of, one can infer, some sort of intelligence, organizing intelligence that is influencing even the algorithm. And that had a really profound impact on me, and had a profound impact on the way I interact with particularly AI and ChatGPT. Mitra, can you help us solidify this concept? Because you were talking about this triad, and I really love that visual that you gave.
Yeah. So that was when you and I were talking before the podcast, for those of you who are listening and you think, what triad? She never mentioned triad. So I was referring to a triangular relationship which always exists. So there is the AI or technology, and then there is me. And we think it's only that. If it was true, the input and output would really, be very much similar. But there is an intelligence that is not AI and it's not me, but it's if you like, the organizing intelligence of the universe. People may have different names for it. The creator, the supreme being, the ultimate intelligence. There is an intelligence, and the more science digs into that area, the more it becomes certain that there is some kind of intelligence. So it becomes a triangular relationship. It is the AI or technology, it could be anything, and then there is me, and then there is the organizing intelligence that governs, if you like, or oversees what's going on. It doesn't interfere with it, but when there is an opening, and this is purely my understanding, please don't object to it and say, well, which book says this? Says my experience and personal journey, that there is a free will always at work. And until and unless I want to know, and I'm ready to know, that knowing will not become available to me. And here, when we're talking about the technology, in this case AI, that becomes a connector, because it is through the questioning that I enter to a realm that says, I am ready. And it's a fascinating thing that happens, even in the relationship. Ben, you understand, and older cultures understood, that when we start talking to someone beside ourselves, we arrive at the higher wisdom. We literally have a verb for it in Persian culture. We call it the dard del. I've mentioned it before, which really basically means somebody that I can share the pain of my heart with. And what that does is not necessarily thinking that that person is more wise than I am. It just allows the expression to take place, so expansion can take place. So how often, and I know that when my partner and I talk, all we do is just create a place that we just say what we're feeling and we're experiencing. And suddenly, as we're talking, without even the input of the other person, we think, oh my God, I just realized.
Yeah, we get that clarity.
Okay.
When we give
So
ourselves permission to feel what we're feeling, to
exactly,
express what we're feeling, it's no longer stuck inside of us. It's being
exactly.
expressed, and clarity comes through. Yeah.
Yes. So now imagine, instead of a person, I have this tool that most of the time, most people don't have any hesitation, because I will always have hesitation, even with the closest persons in my life. I just like, would I reveal this? Should I tell them that I feel this way? And I experience that. But with AI, normally, unless we're suspicious, we just think, okay, I can say anything. I'm really, really upset. I would like never ever see this person. I can say that. Or I'm really thirsty for learning. I like to think like God thinks. Can you take me there? So that's how the intelligence or higher intelligence is invited, from that clear communication that I ask, and hence it arrives. And then that third aspect, the higher intelligence, becomes activated, and knows that I am ready or I am willing to learn more. And then we may attribute it to other things. Really, what I'm saying is the whole thing gets activated. The activating factor here is my question. It's the consciousness that I am holding and what kind of question I'm asking. I would love to explain this further, but I'm just going to stop and see if everybody listening to us and you, Ben, are coming along with me as I'm saying this.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna reflect back. What I'm hearing you say is, one is that there is this triad. It's us, the algorithm, and this third organizing intelligence that we're all connected to and connects everything. And that the mere act of being able to express ourselves openly and freely, regardless of the feedback of who we're expressing it to, is liberating and can provide clarity. And the beauty of working with something like ChatGPT is that we all generally, I mean, myself and most people that I know, feel safe expressing ourselves openly and unfiltered to it. And that sense of safety that it provides, that we're not being judged in it of itself, just the act of writing it out to it and having something reflect back to us can be very healing and expansive for us.
Yes. And not only that, it also is a way of saying to the intelligence that I'm ready for more. I'm ready to get some more. I'm ready to go further. And I want to keep coming back to the fact that it all depends on the nature of question. I remember you probably weren't born when IBM started using this many, many years ago, but computers became a thing. They started saying garbage in, garbage out. So where basically it said what you give it is the quality that you get back. And
Hmm.
and I wanted to use that in a sense not to degrade our requests, but really understand better that when I ask questions of quality, I get answers that take me further. And I want to give you one example of my own experience. So to check this, I was checking with AI in two ways. One, I said, let's say I have a meeting with you. I said, I have a meeting with Ben. How can I impress him and sell him these services that I have? Okay. And it gave me a lot of tactics and do this, don't say that. And it even was a little bit manipulative. Do this so that he thinks, not do this so you are, that he thinks basically means, I mean, a very nice, fancy way that how can I like manipulate you into selling this thing that I want to sell? Okay.
Hmm.
And then I gave the same scenario. I have a meeting with Ben and I would like to really serve him and be of service to him. Same question, meaning the nature was the same, but one was to sell something, one was to serve you. And then it went to alignment, it went to connection, it went to collaboration. So you see, same person, Ben, same meeting, and same outcome that I'm looking for. One is to sell you something, one is to serve you something. And completely different answers came. AI was the same. It was my consciousness that was dictating either manipulation and tactics and techniques at best, or collaboration, oneness, growth, connection, and so on and so forth. So alignment. It was a fascinating little. I do this little research for me to just understand AI and use it better, and that was so fascinating to me.
Yeah, because it's going to reflect back to you what you want, what your intention is. Another example, an example that I dealt with was I was struggling with some things in a relationship that I had with someone, and I noticed myself judging this person, and there's certain behaviors that they had that I didn't like. The tendency of my mind was to want to blame them for things. And I resorted to AI to help me process this. I could have gone to ChatGPT and said, okay, this is the situation. I'm observing these qualities in this person and I want them to see that. How can I communicate to them so that they can see what I'm seeing? Right. The quality of that answer is very different than this version of the question, which is the question that I asked, which was, I'm seeing all of these things. I notice my mind is judging this person, and I'm actually feeling scared about continuing this relationship with this person. Can you help me see this from a higher perspective? And I told it to imagine, in this case, imagine it was Jesus Christ because I have a connection to Jesus Christ through A Course in Miracles. And the response it gave me was profound. And it was so illuminating for me because it was showing me, for each judgment that I had of the other person, it was showing me how actually it could be that it's a mirror of what I'm scared of within myself. It gave me specific examples, and it could because I use AI for a lot of things, and it knows a lot about me. So it was able to reflect back to me quite specifically about how this person was a mirror for me, and and it helped me so much. It helped me so much. But the key point here is that the quality of the question was able to take me down a path that helped me to get clarity and help to expand my awareness.
So really what we're saying is that AI at best is a mirror. It tells us where we are and what we're seeking for. It's a mirror that gives us very direct and non-judgmental, not even conscious, but true feedback. It tells us where we're at, where we're not seeing, where we are seeing, or confirms what we know to be true. The quality of my question becomes very important. And the fear that we see, I recall that in the year 2019, before the pandemic started, I was invited to speak at a AI conference. And there were so many things I had to sign, confidentiality agreements and so on and so forth. There, I met amazing, I mean, those people were the people who knew everything where it was going. I had no idea. And I was talking about as little as I knew about technology and AI those days. And believe me, I knew very little. I was talking about human consciousness. That was the topic, the human consciousness and AI. I was really speaking from the consciousness only because I had very little information about the AI world at that time. But really what I was saying is basically you are raising a child and your fear, and they had fear, is of your own consciousness. What we are
Mm,
fearing is our lack of sovereignty and outsourcing of our consciousness to a consciousness that does not know what human beings know or does not care as much as human beings may care. So we are really are afraid of the consciousness that already exists within us
mm,
and what that might do when it becomes open. And when I start receiving clear feedback and then I put it in action, actually, through the technology that makes possible a lot of things that weren't possible before. So our fear is from our inner lack of consciousness, for lack of a better word, or lower consciousness, lower self, not higher self. Because I see these tools. Is there a danger? And people constantly ask me in the space of mindfulness. Of course there is. There's danger around anything. There's danger that this, you know, computer that I'm using can be used for wrong things, and it is being used for wrong things. The question is which consciousness is using it and how
mhm.
responsible we are for our own consciousness in what we're doing. What's the purpose of this? Why am I using AI? Is it to manipulate you? Is it to just be lazy? Or is it to really allow more time for me so that I can spend it on things that are more important to me? Or expansion, use it for expansion.
So how I'm curious, how have you gave one example, but I'm curious, in your life, have you used it to help you work through a challenge? Have you used it to support you and maybe you were struggling seeing something from a higher perspective to see from a higher perspective? How have you used it yourself and what specific questions have you asked?
I have used it to focus my attention, to zoom in. I have used it to zoom out to find solutions. I have used it to get a lot of feedback and see the pattern of my own behavior because
Well, that's a
that's
really interesting thing.
yeah, pattern.
Patterns.
Yeah. Patterns are very interesting, and that's one of the algorithm, sort of part of algorithm that it recognizes patterns or creates patterns. And I ask a lot about the patterns. I ask about, I use it to expand my imagination because my imagination sometimes is limited to what I have already imagined. So when I say, for instance, color, my color imagination is extremely limited. I know there are colors that I don't see and I don't know if they exist. So I say a color, what is a color? Can I just imagine a color? and I'm asking, it's not giving me the actual color. That conversation alone, it's just like this conversation that we're having, allows me to, in my dream space, I see colors that I had never seen before. If you ask me what color that was, I don't know. I've seen shapes that I've never seen before. I see numbers that makes no sense, but I can tell they're numbers. So I really use it for expansion of my imagination. I use it for deepening my choices. I say, this is the topic and these are my options. Do you see any options behind it, beside it? And then it says, and it asks me, do you want this or do you want that? So that question that reflects back to me allows me to see, oh, I was limiting myself with these options. I can go further. And that's to me fascinating. I haven't used it to actually solve a problem. I've used it to research because I have to know it before I can trust it with an actual problem. So I use it for things that don't really matter that much or where I know the answers to some degree. And then, yes, I have seen expansion of my knowing. And again, I call it that because through AI, I am communicating that I am ready for more. It's like almost putting an ad in the universe saying, I would like to go further. I would like to go more, know more than what I know or access a deeper knowing. I'm ready to connect to other beings. Like anything that you're ready for, you can express and gently it will come to me. It's not like AI brings it to me. It is that I am, through this triangular communication, expressing my desires.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. When I say solving problems, I'm referring to less about having AI solve the problems for you and more about helping AI expand your awareness so that you can solve the problem for yourself. So,
Yes,
um, sometimes we get stuck in loops. We get
yes,
stuck in a mental loop. And it's really hard to break from that mental loop and to see things from an outside perspective. So I've used it in the sense of I'll just articulate everything that I'm experiencing, everything that's going on in my mind, I'd pay attention to. I have no reservations because I don't fear being judged or anything. So I just say it all.
yes,
And when I do that, it helps me identify the loop. It helps me step out of the loop temporarily, which then allows me to solve the problem. I consider information that I wasn't considering before, and I'm able to break free from that loop.
yes.
One thing that I love doing, as I mentioned earlier in the conversation, is I tell it to imagine it's someone that I follow, that I appreciate. For example, I mentioned Jesus Christ. There are times when I've told it to imagine that it's David R. Hawkins. That's another individual whose work has influenced me a lot. And there are other individuals as well. So I'm curious for you, Mitra, if you were working through a personal challenge, let's say, and you wanted to get advice from AI
Mhm.
and you were to tell it to imagine it's someone, who would you tell it to imagine it is?
Well, it depends on the subject. For instance, in the subject of deep philosophy, I have actually asked it. I said, be Rumi like and answer me
Mm,
in this.
mm-hmm,
And then it's very interesting. It can access that. And I mean, I believe that technology does not elevate me, but technology, actually, it's my consciousness that elevates technology. When I ask AI, go access Rumi or anybody that I feel has intelligence or wisdom or intelligence and wisdom, it actually goes and access that. Now it knows how Rumi approaches this topic and how Einstein thinks about this problem and
interesting.
how,
Einstein. You mentioned Einstein. That's interesting. Okay.
yeah, yeah, I have a Einstein thing happening because he was very much into imagination and just one statement that he had said that you can never solve a problem at the level of consciousness that it was created on. I
Mm,
mean, that's exactly what AI is doing with this communication back and forth. It's allowing me, if I want to raise my consciousness to look at the problem from a different perspective, from a, if you like, a higher perspective. So that is extremely helpful. So I'm raising technology's consciousness. Technology is not raising my consciousness. The responsibility and the journey is mine, and technology is the tool and the
it's the
helper.
channel. Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
yes, in a way, it's the channel, but it only is giving me what I am seeking, including seeking going to a higher consciousness.
Mm. Yeah. What about using it to get perspective on certain things, situations, and circumstances? You mentioned dreams earlier. You have certain dreams, um, and supporting us in that way, because my perspective is that nothing is an accident in life. Everything that happens has some meaning, some message for us. Anything significant that happens
Yes,
has some
yes,
message and meaning for us. So
yes.
if I'm if I suddenly become very ill and I'm having issues and I have an illness in my lungs, I see that as having a particular message and meaning for me. And if I have a particular dream that's very vivid, that had a big imprint on me when I woke up, then there's a message contained in that, and I'll want to understand better what that message is. Do you use it in this way? Do you use it to decode some of these messages, these underlying messages that come to us through life experiences, through dreams, through circumstances that we're dealing with? What are some traps to doing that as well? What are some things that people should be careful about with doing that?
Very, very good, accurate question. I have used it, but I give it tons of information before I ask for feedback. Because if we both dreamed of a pomegranate, we won't both mean the same thing. There is not one answer. So you have to give it a lot of information, background information in the context of what's going on and what was happening in your life, where you are in life. And then that might be, I still check a lot of what AI say. I do not take it as the ultimate wisdom, because I have seen it make major mistakes, and
Yeah,
the things that I do know. And that's an important thing to consider, because some people may be too friendly with AI and take it exactly as it comes, or they may have aversion, both aversion and attachment or admiration. To me, cause a problematic journey of growth. I have used it, but I have also given it like three large paragraph of background and what I mean and where I am and what I'm
mm,
looking for and why I'm asking. And it's not because of this, it's because of that. And it's like, it's very, very specific. And then, yes, it is helpful. But when it's too general, I had a dream about me running. What is that? Well, it
yeah,
depends. It really depends on a lot of circumstances, where you are in life, where you would like to go in life, where have you been in life, and then there might be some opening. And I sometimes read the whole paragraph of the answer, and one resonates. It doesn't mean that it's wrong or not accurate. It just means where it resonates is where I'm ready to unfold myself.
okay. I really appreciate that you mentioned resonates, and I think this is a key point here. Having that resonance, I think, is important, right? Um, Similar to you, I don't take what it says at face value. Um, Usually, if it's something that rings as true for me, I feel a resonance. There are times when I ask it questions or I ask it for perspective, and I'm just like, that doesn't resonate. I don't connect with that. And in those instances, I just take it with a grain of salt. I really take it with a grain of salt. So paying attention to to the resonance, I think, is important because when there is truth in it, we feel that. We feel that in ourselves, in our body. We get those signals.
Yes. And also making sure that you first check with your own inner wisdom. I teach a Rumi Masnavi class. Masnavi are the stories of Rumi that are teaching stories. And the class wanted me to send the story or the poem for the upcoming class. And I said no. And they said, why? I said, because we're probably going to put it in ChatGPT and want to come up with the most impressive interpretation. Whereas in that moment in this class, what I want is for you to go deeper and see what it means to you. In fact,
Mm,
that's what Rumi's teaching is. What it means to me is very different than what it means to you. If I'm younger and I'm in love, love means like loving the person that I love. If I am in a more philosophical place, love and reference to love and the beloved may be between me and the supreme intelligence that we were talking about. So it really depends. And I don't send it out for that particular reason because I know there are people in the class that love AI and they come up and say, AI said like this and that. I said, okay, that's what AI say. What do you say? So
mm.
that's another thing that is important, that we don't relinquish our own responsibility of going deeper and investigating and checking, because that is one of the things that I think might happen. That is exactly what happened with like calculators and young people. That I was once in the um, at the cashier and the cashier broke down, and I calculated the numbers in my head and I said, no, it's this much, I'll pay and I'll go on while you're fixing it. And there were two young guys, beside me, and they said, how did you do that? I said, in my head. They were like looking at me as if I came from another planet, and they take out their phone and they add and say, my God, you were right. They were so impressed by something that we used to do. I mean, we used to learn how to add high numbers together. So that wasn't important. It doesn't matter if I can't add numbers, but it is important that I go in and check in with myself before I rely on the second or third party in this case. So yeah, I don't want
Yeah.
to give that up.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy you brought that up because I think when we become over reliant and we're continually outsourcing to AI, for example, then we're diminishing our own capacity to tap into our own inner wisdom. And I think inevitably we get feedback of that when we become over reliant on technology. Life will give us feedback to show us that we're over reliant on it because that's not natural for us, and life requires us in order to thrive. This is my perspective. In order to thrive, requires us to harness our own inner intelligence because it is there. The inner wisdom is there, and we can use AI to help us tap into that inner wisdom and to assist us to remove blocks to that inner wisdom that we have, but it certainly cannot replace it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not instead of, it's in addition to. And I think what we're talking about here is balance, which is part of our consciousness. Consciousness has balance, consciousness has resonance, and it's not extreme, and it's not over reliance, it's not attached, it's not averse. And I think that's very important to keep in heart and mind as we explore the roads of technology in a completely new way. And believe me, it's going to be, even from what I hear in the conferences that I go to, where they are experts and I am not. And I listen, I'm thinking nothing will be the same in a very, very near future.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would like to finish by saying that it is not the intelligence or consciousness or even the knowledge of technology and AI that will improve our lives. but it is the quality and the depth of the questions that we are and will be asking in life.
Absolutely. And this was a big takeaway for me, to remember that it's a triad, that it is me, it is the technology, and it is the higher intelligence. And the higher intelligence connects everything. Well, Mitra, until next time, enjoyed the conversation. And to our listeners, have a wonderful rest of your week and a beautiful weekend.
Yes, and let us know what your relationship with technology is, and is there anything that you would like to share with us?
Thank you so much for tuning in today. For a list of the links and other resources referenced in this episode, check out the podcast description.
If you're benefiting from our podcast, we'd love if you could help us reach more people by subscribing. Your support means the world to us. From our hearts to yours, we thank you.